Right, we've got coffee.
We're warmed up now, you see.
Right, guys, we've got coffee in front of us. We've got mugs of coffee. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Whisky Breakfast Podcast, take 2. There we go. Right, Angus, you know what to do. Clap us in. Welcome to the Whisky Stories Podcast.
For me to add anyone to the portfolio of what I import, they really have to be additive.
Yeah.
They have to have something different. We don't want to just import the same stuff with different labels. Like sometimes we see a product like 99 and 1 from Living Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah, we knew that was going to be instantly. We didn't have a conversation about that. The first time I came to Scotland, I called up my current and favorite wife, Melissa, and only wife, for folks who are listening. And I told you have to come here. It's incredibly amazing.
Welcome along to the Whisky Stories Podcast. Myself, Graeme. We are back in the Athletic Arm, back in Diggers, but Angus, we're not where we usually are. We really have gone up in the world because we are sitting at in the bar.
Absolutely, yeah. We're in the main body of the kirk, as it were. We're actually at the bar. We're not sandwiched between the bar and the gents' toilets.
No, we're not underneath the bar. We're not underneath the bar even. We're sitting in because...
And that's because Diggers is crap and no one turns up, so we've got the place to ourselves.
Aye, right, good luck. Kev's round the corner, he's about to chuck a bottle at you. But I don't know if we can officially call this a lock-in. If anyone from the licensing board is listening, we are.
We did check.
Everything's fine.
Kev is licensed.
We haven't broken in. We haven't stayed the night. We haven't slept in. It isn't 3 o'clock in the morning or anything like that. It's actually 10 o'clock in the morning.
It is, but when we turned up this morning, or when I turned up this morning, there was a lock on the door.
There's a lock, yeah, exactly. We had to knock a specific way and to get ourselves in the door. Please don't do that. If you do say WSP 15, you'll get a 15% discount when you come in the mornings on your coffees. But no, we're here. It's because today we are off to the Independent Spirits Festival down in Leith.
Which I could not be more excited about.
I'm really excited.
Last year, Ross, occasionally of this podcast, he was there. He spoke in kind of glowing terms about how good this festival was. And looking at I didn't see the lineup for last year, but I've seen the lineup for this year, and I'm really, really excited.
Absolutely. I think it was actually a one-off last year. What I was told was basically someone said, you need to do that again. Because if you don't do it again, I'm going to do it. Or I'll get somebody else to do it because it's such a popular run. Yeah. It's a purely independent bottler spirits, independent bottler whiskey festival, so only independent bottlers there. Really looking forward to it.
And as you can see from the sunshine coming in, we've got a fantastic cracking day for spending the whole day inside.
Drinking whiskey, exactly.
Whiskey.
But we've, a year ago this morning, Angus,
yes,
we were having breakfast with the gentleman who's joined us today.
Howard
Sachs. Howard, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great to have you here. Great to see you now. A year ago, just now, Angus, this weekend, was our Dornoch trip, which is mental because the fact that 12 months ago we
I know, it seems like it was about 2 weeks ago.
It was great. And we were sitting there with Phil and Simon on the Friday night in the Dornoch Castle Hotel. We just recorded our first episode with Phil and Simon where they brought out so much whiskey for us down in their little, it's a cellar room that they had.
Yeah.
Brought all these drams. We'd had a chat, then they said, up the stairs, we'll get some dinner. And we're sitting having dinner, and Phil kind of said, I hope you don't mind, but we're going to ask this guy to come and join us. His name's Howard. He's come all the way from the States. So Howard went and sat down, and we were like, hi, Howard, nice to meet you. And you're like, yeah, great. And then we asked you, what do you do? So tell everybody, Howard, who are you and what do you do?
So I'm Howard Sachs. I'm the founder of an import company, Sachs Dynamic Operations. I'm been just a massive fan of Scotch whiskey, and I started the company to bring more great Scotch into the U.S. We're a national importer. I import for Holyrood Distillery, Annandale Distillery. I love some independent bottlers, so we're the importer for Lady the Glen, Living Souls, the Whiskey Broker brands,
Brilliant.
And Bartels we import for as well, their Highland Laird brand.
Nice. So, yeah, because that's the crazy thing about this morning, and that's why we managed to all hook up again, is the fact that, like, this time last year, so we met you, Phil invited you onto the table, which was great. We sat down, we had some really, the pizzas up at the Dornoch Castle. Absolutely fantastic. And then, we had a few drams, we had a good night. Then the next day, we were just, there's that Howard guy at breakfast. We sat and had breakfast together as well. So literally a year to the day, at this time probably, we were sitting enjoying a nice breakfast at Dornoch Castle Hotel. And here we are now, a year on in Diggers. And you've not stayed in Scotland for the year. You've been away in the States and come back again. Yeah. So you've been here. How long have you been in Scotland for this trip?
About 2 weeks. So I was here last week and then the week before, and I'll stay for the festival because it's just the Independent Spirits Festival is an incredible place with so many great drams, so many great brands, so much energy in the room. It seems like everyone from around the world that is into independent whiskey is here.
Yeah, because you went to this festival last year.
I did go. Yeah. So some of our suppliers were in the film Independent Spirits, or I should say series, the 4-part series, Independent series that I think has really helped to educate people globally about what's so special about independent bottling.
Well, that's the thing, because the story behind this festival was effectively, basically, now the names have completely gone away from me, but there was a docu-series or document movie done by about independent bottlers, and it's independent bottling in Scotch, and a lot of familiar faces in that throughout the people that we've spoken to and met, and some big names in the industry as well. And I think they did the launch last year of this, and then at the back of it, they just had a sort of festival at the same time. And like I say, I think that was always just going to be, that was the launch, that was just it. And then basically people said, by the way, this is really, 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 really good.
Yes.
We need to be doing it again.
Yeah.
And basically, here we are a year on, and we've got the festival down in Leith today, which I'm really excited about. Now, it's like what Angus was saying earlier as well. I think it was Greg Urquhart and a few other guys I've spoken to have just said the day was just incredible. When we talk about whisky festivals, we've covered a lot of whisky festivals, Angus.
Yeah, we've covered quite a few. We've been to Helmsborough for
Lomond and Clyde.
Lomond and Clyde.
Yeah.
We've been a couple of times to the one in Murrayfield in Edinburgh.
Edinburgh Whisky Festival.
We've been to Whisky Fringe as well.
Whisky Fringe and Fife Whisky Festival as well.
So we've been to a fair share.
We have, and the thing about them is
even that is a drop in the water compared to what there is.
Oh, well, there is, and there's so many out there. So when you do have people in the industry, people who now, the two ways of looking at it is you have people in the industry who say this is the best whisky festival we've done, and then you have people in the industry who go to festivals, and other people who do go to a lot of whisky festivals saying, I'm coming to this because it is up there. I think Whisky Fringe will always be seen as like the main big whisky festival
in Edinburgh,
in
Scotland.
And Scotland. Yeah. Then you have Whisky Paris Live. You have Whisky London.
London Live.
Is it London Live? Whisky in London, whatever.
And you have actually, if Chuck was here, he'd be saying you have the Chichibu Fest out in Japan.
Absolutely, they're global. But this is what makes a good whisky festival, and I think that's a question that we do want to ask a little bit more about. Is what makes a good whisky festival? And I think one of the things that I'll say is that when you have a room full of just indie bottlers. We've been lucky enough to go to Whisky Fringe a couple of times now, Angus, and the downstairs bit of Whisky Fringe is the sort of independent, newish distilleries and independent. And what everyone always says is it is the busiest part of the festival
because there is that diversity there, and there is that you know that people will be having interesting releases. There'll be different things that you can try.
Yeah, and it's good fun, and you're meeting people who, and not that everyone else doesn't, but you can go to a whisky festival and you can have a big brand there, and that big brand will have maybe a brand advocacy team or a brand ambassador, and that's fine, and that's great because there's some fantastic brand ambassadors out there like Mike Brown and some of the other guys that we've met. So getting a chance to speak to those guys, you see the passion coming through. Other brands might even put somebody like Stephen Woodcock on the stand, and then you're getting a chance to actually meet the guy who's blending it and who's has a fingerprint on the whiskey. But when you go to an independent, the section of the independent, or you're going somewhere with all independents that are in there, you're meeting the people who are literally doing it. Woody and Megan will be there today, and they'll be stand there on the thing, and they'll be talking about what they're doing. George and Rachel Keeble, you'll have the Thompson brothers will be down, and it's basically it is. These guys are, what we're giving you is what we physically made ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a very good point, Graeme, because what you're saying is not only is it a great chance to try the whiskey and try maybe something a wee bit different that they might have at the festival, etc. I'm sure people will be bringing special bottles along.
Yeah.
It's also a great opportunity, like you said, to speak to the producers, speak to those people, ask questions, get to know about what these brands do, how they do it. But, if you're at Whisky Fringe and you were speaking at the Rare Find... At the Rare Find, you'd have just had a couple of chances like us.
2 days, I didn't know whether
but what we did see from that is actually such an engaged audience. People were asking us these questions that really should have been asking the producers. Rather
Yeah,
than
But also,
myself.
and then it's the second side of it. The secondary part from a brand perspective is, it's the people who are coming in are important.
Yes.
Now, I'm not going to slaughter any whiskey festival in general, but when you get a group of engaged people who know, basically what you know is that this room is going to be full of whiskey geeks.
Yeah.
Right. So the geeks this is where they're all going. This is Comic-Con. This is, for whiskey geeks, this is it.
It is,
and
we even got dressed up.
We've got our t-shirts.
We're cosplaying as podcasters.
But there is a danger. We've seen it ourselves. It's a long day. You're standing on a stall and you're pouring whiskey, and then what you have is you have one person that comes. There are people who walk about these festivals with pens and paper and notepads, right?
Oh yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
They're coming up and going, right, I've researched that you're going to be here. I've found that you've got an unnamed lowland. I want to try it, and I want to talk about it, and I want to hear about it. Great. Then it gives us it gives the brand an opportunity to speak to them. Then also you just get people that are just literally walking around going, oh, I'll try some of that, or oh, I'll try some of this. Now, of course, we always advocate, please festival responsibly, okay? Yes. But you do just get people sometimes that just go, like we interviewed a guy at the Lomond and Clyde Whisky Festival. I said, what have you tried today? And he went, row 1. Right? And I went, okay. And I says, anything stand out? And he went, it all just tastes like whiskey. Yeah. But that's fine. That's his prerogative. He was there. Yeah. So this is where you're literally going to get, you're not going to get people going, can I try your most expensive, or can I try your oldest
whiskey? Yeah.
What they're going to say is they're going to say, can I try what's new?
I really like rum casks. I want to try all the rum cask finishes.
Brilliant. So I'm looking forward to it. But Howard,
yes.
Right, talk us through your journey. How did you get into whiskey?
So I've always, since I became drinking age, have enjoyed whiskey.
Which is, of course, 3 or 4 years after we all became drinking age in the States.
Yeah. Unfortunately. But I was in consulting, and I did tax consulting and large projects, and I'd be on the road with project teams, and you'd go out you'd get in early, you'd work late, you'd go out, you'd have some drinks to unwind. And I was on a project, I think, where I really began my love of Scotch was I was on a project in London, and it wasn't a long-term project, but I was out there for weeks at a time. And I discovered while in London, cask strength and independent bottled Scotch. Particularly, I had a bottle from the Whiskey Exchange. That was their Christmas malt. It was a Glenfarclas in there. It was a cask strength, and nice. It was just incredible. And so I think that was the start of my journey was having just social drinks like a Dewar's or a Johnny Walker, and then when I came to the UK from the US and got exposure to some of the great distilleries in Scotland and what they were able to produce at non-chill filtered at higher strengths. It really got me thinking and wanting to explore what else is out there.
And when is this roughly, time-wise? What we're talking?
How many years ago?
Yeah, so 2016 was the first time I went out there, and then 2018, I would say, nice. was when I started to get down in the deep end, where I was seeing the independent bottlers and looking for distilleries that didn't have releases that were usually used for blending, not necessarily as a single malt.
So you were doing that on a kind of personal level. You were just seeing those different whiskies, that cask strength whiskies, independent bottlers. How long then until you started your business then?
Yeah, so I continued to do consulting through 2022, and towards the end of the pandemic, I got to be managing director at a large global firm, and I found myself unsatisfied with where I was. I got to the pinnacle, so to speak, at what I thought was the most prestigious firm, and doing the kind of work that I wanted to do at the level I wanted to do it. But I was just unsatisfied. I didn't think that this was how I wanted to spend my life, and so I left what at that point it was a hard summit to climb, but I had got to there, and I said I want to do something entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And so I wrote some business plans, And I promised my wife I would operate no more than 3 entrepreneurial businesses at once, and I'm still on the first business.
Well done.
Oh, well, that's good, man. That's really good.
Yeah, so I wrote the business, and I thought that there was, and I still believe it, that it's just logistically and operationally and from a regulatory perspective, it's hard to operate in the U.S., especially with single cask strength whiskeys, the stuff I like, and I sought to use my experience with regulators and with process to try to come up with a way to efficiently get the kinds of whiskeys that I loved, the stuff that was single cask, it was limited release, into the U.S. and available for consumers to easily purchase and get into their home bars and into their glasses ultimately.
Because it's a niche, you're niching in, aren't you? Because when you going back before you even started the business and came up with a business plan, we've got Scott Moore. Hello, Scott.
Hi, Scott.
And his current wife out there in the States.
in
and
Tennessee.
Scott will travel around the country with the work that he does with the Memphis Symphony Orchestra. He is traveling a lot for work, and what he'll be able to do is he'll be able to work out, I could go to this state and I know I can get this importer in here, and he is looking. I mean, the thing that really gave us the introduction to Scott was when it was a Weekend Dram roll call and Ross spotted some really obscure
It was
pictures.
a Blackadder, I think it was like an Invergordon 50 or something like that. It was an old grain whiskey bottled by Blackadder, independent bottler.
Yeah, and Ross
went, how have you got that in America? Where did you find this?
And then that triggered him to do his video, which was great, and it was started the video of people showing their bars, and we saw Whiskey Shed TM from Bob Cutting, and we've seen
Craig
Darling's bar, absolutely fantastic. But point being is there are people out in America, in the States and all over the world really, but in America that will be searching for unique and bespoke whiskies.
Yes.
And how easy is that? To explain it from where we're sitting in a pub with over 800 bottles of whiskey and a bridge of independent bottlers, how easy is it for the consumer in the States? So when you've come back from London, as you're going fartless, you've gone, right, I need to find more, not just your standard OBs on the shelf. Yeah. How hard is that?
It can be incredibly difficult, especially depending on which state you're in. So at the time, I was living in the state of Pennsylvania, which is what we call a control state, meaning the government has control, the monopoly on the retail tier.
So this is maybe a bit like in Sweden, where the liquor stores in Sweden are all kind of government owned.
Yeah.
You've got a limited selection of what you can buy. Is that the same idea
in certain states? Yeah. So each state is different, their own little fiefdoms. But in Pennsylvania, there's a Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, and there's a buyer for spirits, and that buyer for spirits is in charge of buying the what's going to be in the physical stores throughout the state.
Just one person?
Basically.
So they have full control.
Yeah.
So if that person doesn't think that whiskey is really that big a business and decides that tequila or rum or cognac is a bigger opportunity, then basically the shop shelves will be full of that, but not, and you'll get limited whiskey on there.
You'll have limited Scotch in there because they might think Scotch isn't a good category because what they've chosen isn't moving.
Yeah. Well, that's the next thing, because I want to dive into this. I really want to go into how it works because I don't know if I've told you, Angus, but I was actually in India for a wee while at the beginning of the year there. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I was over there. I don't know if I've mentioned it.
I wondered where you were.
but I've done a lot of conversations about India and the Indian market, and we've done podcast episodes where we've discussed the challenges and the way that India is set up. But we've spoken to Scott Moore about it, who's a consumer, and he talks about how difficult it is for him to get, or how easy or how tricky it is depending state by state. So what is the system in the States then? Explain it to us as easily as you possibly can, so we can understand how hard or how easy it is to get whiskey in America.
Yeah, so we have I'll start at the top level. We have a 3-tier system where you've got the producer tier. Those are the people that make the products. You have the wholesale tier. That's where I sit. Those are people that import the products and sell to one another. It includes local distributors in each state. Each state likes to protect themselves and have local people doing distribution within their state. And then you have the retail tier, and that includes stores and bars and pubs and all the on-premise and off-premise items. so you get licensed. I'm licensed at the national level by the TTB for wholesale and import.
And the TTB are who? Sorry, that's
the federal government,
right,
U.S. federal
okay,
government.
Right.
Tax and Trade Bureau.
There you go. The
say.
Bureau.
Yeah.
The guys at the Bureau, huh?
Yeah. They've been good to work with. I have no
good.
complaints working with the TTB. When they interviewed me, they asked if I was going to pay my taxes, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'll pay my." And then things went a lot easier after that. They want to make as long as you're paying taxes.
So you get your license with the TTB then, right? Yeah. So you're licensed. So then what happens?
So then I have a state license. So I have state licenses. My home state is Florida now. Really great place to do business.
Hello to the Tampa Bay Whiskey Club.
Yeah.
Good pals of yourself. Slam your
They do great work. Thank you for the support, Tampa Bay Whiskey Club. Alfredo, Roberto, Ali, and the rest of the members. Really good guys. Hope to be out. I'll be in Tampa, I think, in April.
Really?
So hopefully we'll have a dram then. Hopefully this will be out by.
It will be. Yeah. So that's your home state.
My home state. We've got import-export licenses in Florida, but then if we want to do business in other states, some states require licenses, others don't. So for California, we've got, and I won't name all of the states, but there's an out-of-state shipper's permit you have to have.
Right.
In New York State, there's like a marketing permit that we have to have. I forget what they call it in Maryland we registered to be in, and so in all the different states, some have a charge, some charge you for the license to be able to do it, some charge you by the SKU, so every brand label we have to register. So for one of the reasons why it's challenging to bring single cask in to the US is that each of the labels, depending on how the labels are designed, is its own registration. So Florida might charge me $30 for the label. New York might charge me $20 for the label.
So when you say for the label, you're talking about, like, let's just say if we're talking about Living Souls, because Living Souls are one of the brands that you distribute and bring in. Living Souls can bring out, so the Living Souls label is there, but let's just say if they give you an outturn of, say, 3 different casks, then 100 bottles of this cask A, 200 bottles of cask B, and 300 bottles of cask C, you would have to pay for each one of those a label registration for cask A, a label registration for cask B for the same state, even though it's the same brand.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Wow. And I think that's very similar in India. I think there's a similarity. And then when you talk about the cost of that, what about the time scale? Is it quick turnaround, or do you have to submit it and wait a few weeks, months to get labels registered? And
so my home state of Florida is pretty efficient because they like to collect the revenue. So within 24 hours of me submitting it, they'll approve it.
Right.
And then we can be selling.
So you can have literally bottles ready to go. And as soon as
but other states, and I won't name names because we like to be on good terms with the other
states,
they can take a month.
Really?
And then they ask questions about it, and so it can be a longer process.
All right, so you said you weren't going to name all the states that you're actually in, but how many states across America are you in then?
Well, what I've done as a new importer, so our first shipment came in 2024, is we took an effort versus impact approach to say what are the biggest markets that we can be in with the lowest amount of effort and are going to have the biggest impact on the bottom line. And so for us, we looked at New York State.
Right.
And New York State's a great place to do business. And so that was the first market we were in 2024. We're in some of the best bars in Manhattan, which is pretty prestigious, and it helps us nationally.
Yeah.
So we're in places like the Brandy Library.
Okay.
We're in Copper and Oak. We're in the Travel Bar in Brooklyn there. And that was important for me because I see that really as advertising, that if these great places are willing to stock the products, and when there's a lot of tourists that come into those bars, that they can see it there, and they can go want to get it. And then the other thing that we did as part of my business plan is I wanted to work with a good digital partner.
Okay.
So most of the stores that we work with are digital first.
Right.
Meaning they have really great websites and they allow people to buy things online in addition to their brick and mortar. They don't rely on foot traffic. And so the stores that we've been able to work with in New York State stock most of the SKUs that I import so that consumers don't have to go find the bottle. Because on a given import, I may only get of a single cask, and this is I may get 10 cases of 60 bottles for the country. And
so where do you put that?
So we don't want the consumer to have to figure out this store has this bottle and that store has that one, because you're never going to get the right bottle in the right store. So we work with places that had really good e-commerce strategy so that consumers are able to go online and buy the bottles, and those New York retailers have worked out pretty good deals where they're able to ship.
Yeah.
And so
they've got national reach as well.
Most of them are able to. There's a couple states that don't like you to ship into them that they don't ship into, but most of the country, unless your state is litigious, are able to get the bottles.
So the idea being, you know, someone like Scott Moore, he's in New York for work or a wee trip with his current wife. They pop into one of these bars, he sees a bottle on the shelf, wow, never seen that before, orders it and goes, this is great, I can get this in the States now. And instead of trying to find out what shop he can get it in, or store, he can find out, basically he could just go online and there'll be a retailer with, hopefully. So that is an interesting model, and that's where, for me, trying to really understand it, because, so from the other point of view then, let's just say we want to get Whisky Stories podcast product into the States then. How do we do it?
So step one is, working on what the price is going to be. Because in the 3-tier system, it shocks a lot of people to see how there's a kind of a snowball effect.
Everybody takes their cut.
Right? So, first we have to convert from pounds to dollars, which is simple enough, and then we ship into the U.S. There's a lot of cost to get things over the Atlantic, and there's filings, and so you would need to have an FDA registration. We'd need to notify the FDA when the product is coming. The port fees, when it comes into port, they're going to have a fee. I pay a customs broker to do the filings. She does a great job. It's done right quickly the first time, every time. And then we bring it into a warehouse.
You do all that?
Yeah, I coordinate all that.
Right, so literally all I'm doing is, at this point, as I'm saying to you, I've found you, I've got a brand, I've got Whisky Stories Podcast blend, which we're going to get sorted once I get my vacuum tank cleaned.
Coming in later this year.
At some point. I say to you, right, Howard, how do we get Whisky Stories blend into the States? I speak to you and you say, right, I'll sort of that.
I give the parade of horribles and all of the costs.
Right. And so then, tell me this then, with all those costs, do you base it on what the bottle it costs us, or if I say to you, right, what the bottle to retail, I say the retail value of this bottle is going to say £50 for easy, right? Do you then take that and then work out what that has to sit on the shelf at in America, or do we have to then work out a deal saying, or do you say to me, Graeme,
if you want the bottle to cost $50 in America, you need to sell it to us at X price.
Is that how that works then?
Yeah, it's kind of a blend of both, I would say.
Good use of an analogy. Good blend.
So we get what's called Ex Works pricing, where the supplier said this is what the bottle is going to cost, and at FOB, where you can pick it up at a point.
So X Works. So my understanding of X Works is effectively, if I said to you X Works, right, I'm going to bottle all this, I'm going to label it, and then I'm going to put it into cases, and I'm going to leave it at the front door of Diggers. And then it's up to you. I'm going to sell it to you at this price. And that's all I'm going to do. And then it's your job, which I can help you with, but it's your job to find somebody in a van to pick it up, then take it to either an airport that's going to ship it, or it's
go by sea.
Probably go by sea, so it's going to go to Grangemouth or someplace like that. But that's X Works literally just means this is the price of the bottles left at the front door for you to then collect and do whatever you want with. So So we start with that, and I'll run that through the model that I have, which has all of these costs so we spread out all the costs of import because we consolidate across suppliers typically to try to lower that. And then we have costs for warehousing. So for instance, the state of California has a resting rule where it has to rest for 24 hours in California. Some might say it just has to touch, but it has to touch or rest depending on who you talk to. And then from there, it can go out to a retailer, but that's to keep the warehouses in business in California. So our model incorporates all of those costs for third parties, a small amount of margin for us, a wee bit, and then we've got distributors in each state that we work with, they get paid, and then we have the retailer in the U.S. And the retailer typically in the U.S. likes to earn about 30% margin.
Some retailers are lower, some are a little higher, depending on the real estate.
Which is a big margin, isn't it?
So the retailer takes 30%,
Yeah.
but then also you've got, let's go the other way. So the retailer's taking 30% margin roughly, give or
Yes.
take. Then your distributor's getting something.
They like some of the full service distributors that are in the middle of the country like to earn 30%.
So the retailer's getting 30,
Yes.
distributor's getting 30.
Yeah.
We're having to pay for it to sit in California for a day.
And
If it's going to California
and we
market,
haven't
yeah.
even mentioned the T word either.
Yeah, we got tariffs and
Tariffs.
taxes and duties. Yeah,
Jesus,
well, I was getting to that.
Right, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Carry on.
Yeah. Because we've went in a couple directions. I was giving you the parade of horribles from the import side when we're landing, and then there's one also then from the. So what we prepare is a waterfall analysis where we have all the costs. So that's usually what happens with a supplier is they give me the price, I look at it, and then it looks like it's initially a good price with X works, and then we layer in all these costs.
Yeah.
And then we're like, this is what it's going to land at the shelf at. And then we have that talk is like, I don't know if this is going to be sellable here. Sometimes we see a product like 99 and 1 from Living Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah, we knew that was going to be instantly. We didn't have a conversation about that. But like other products with them or other suppliers, we might have that conversation to say, if this is going to sit at $500, do we think people are going to buy it at $500?
Yeah, because ultimately the person, so who picks up the bill, really? Who gets hit here? Because if I'm saying to you X Works price, so I'm saying if it's retail price at 50 quid, let's just say X Works is going, so we've not included any tax on that,
Yep.
we're not including any margin on that. Well, we are making a margin, but not a retail margin.
Yeah.
I'll maybe say to you, right, it's going to cost you £35 per bottle, right? Let's say for easy counting, that's 350 bottles because we're giving you 10. We're giving you 100 bottles.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're giving you 10 bottles. My maths is not in a good place right now. So right, we're getting 10 bottles for easy counting. There's 10 bottles. £35 cost to you. Okay. Then you've got to layer all your other costs on top. Roughly speaking, what would you reckon that would sit on the shelf in the States in for?
35-pound bottle.
We would retail at 50. But you're going to have to add in all your costs on that.
Yeah, I think in the U.S. 3-tier system, that's going to be close to it's going to be pushing like close to $140, $150, depending on where and depends where the pound is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you could buy it for 50. So I could buy it for 50 quid in the shop in Scotland, but the consumer in the States is going to have to pay 100. Now, then what you have the problem is like you said, you have to have conversations with us to go, right, guys, is your product realistically going to justify can they justify spending that kind of money on your whiskey?
Yeah.
And if they do, are they going to be enthusiastic enough to go back and want more? Or are they going to go, I'm not drinking that, it's rubbish. That was an Angus blend. And then your problem is you're a retailer stuck with that stock.
Well, we don't like retailers to be stuck with stuff.
Exactly, because then the problem is the retailer never comes back to you again because he says, Howard, the last time you gave me stuff, I took a punt on it and it was rubbish. So this is so where do you have to have that conversation first with us, don't you?
Yeah, it's a long and it's a hard conversation. And sometimes it's one we don't finish. Like there are products that we think would be great, but maybe the economics just don't work in the U.S. Unfortunately.
Well, go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just that is the problem that you have, is that it's one of the conversations that we've been having a lot this week actually with people is when you're an independent bottler or a blender or anybody really, and you've got the head or heart situation, what hat do you put on? Do you sit there and go, I love this dram, I would drink this dram, this is an absolute cracking dram, but then you have to then put your other hat on and go,
be the businessman.
Is this dram actually going to sell at the price that we put it on the shelf at? Is it going to sit on the shelf beside everybody else's dram at the same price and not stand out? Or is it going to be pitched too high? Or is it just not going to, that's where conversations like that people really in the whiskey industry, if you're on the creation side, don't like to have. Well, maybe do. But what I would say is we talk about it all the time. Jura is Jura 10. And Jura itself is the number one selling single malt in
brand
Scotland.
In the UK,
brand in the UK, yeah.
Yeah.
And people will go, what? And it is. It's 40% ABV. It does what it needs to do.
Well,
people buy it £26 a bottle in the co-op or in the supermarket. That's what they do. Then, so they have to make a decision. The people in White and Mackay are sitting there going, yeah, that's what it is. That's a product, that's a brand, that sells.
Yeah, but that leads interestingly into the kind of products decided to base your business around? Because you're primarily independent bottlers, small distilleries, etc. You're not going after those big distilleries because they're already taken for, right? So this is what you're trying to do in a way is bring something that's not currently in America to America, which is a really interesting decision as well, because also you're kind of breaking new ground as you're doing that as well.
Yeah, so the distilleries and the brands largely that I brought in, I sought out, and they weren't in the U.S., and I wanted them to be in the U.S. So at Holyrood Distillery, for instance, I was knocking on the door before they even had single malt available. Yeah,
so you were...
Because I loved what they were doing with their experimentations in malt bills. We call it mash bills in the U.S.
Yeah.
But with different malts and specialty yeasts, I thought it was, I still do, I think it's incredibly exciting. And it wasn't in the U.S. And I love what Annandale does with single cask strength, and no traditional importer would want to mess around with that because of the logistical challenges of trying to...
Well, does that make it difficult for you? Because what you've picked is two brands, two distillery brands that are doing something very different by making things completely unique all the time, so the consistency is not there. Does that make it harder for you?
Yeah.
Because ultimately you've got a situation where, what happens if I like that Holyrood release and I go, I love that, and then I go, I can't get it anymore because the next Holyrood's gone. Yeah. There's a nice part to that, but also there's equally a challenge to that as well.
There is a lot of so there's challenge with getting that shelf space, and then when it's sold out, it's sold out. But it doesn't necessarily mean that retailer is going to want to put a different SKU from that producer in that shelf space. It's a lot of work. We in Annandale's case, we imported a double oaked. And double oak, not on their end, they're single cask, meaning one cask from start to finish, but they used a double oak from a prominent bourbon distillery, and we imported it last year, and it was phenomenal, and it worked really well, and people really liked it. And we have another double oak cask pick, but I've got the buyers are saying, well, we like that old one, we don't know about the new one, and it's like, well, trust me, it's better, but it's challenging.
It is, but I guess what you're saying with, we talk about Jura, and Jura, number one best-selling single malt brand in the UK, and that has a market, but there is another market of whiskey. Like you said, the people go, oh, Jura. They're not buying Jura, they're buying, so there is, I'm sure like the UK and the US, there is this market for cask strength, single cask,
there is,
new distilleries, interesting independent bottlers, and if you can bring that to that market, then
and if you can hook into that market,
and expand that market.
Well, yeah. I mean, but there's my next question then: is who picks up the bill for marketing? Because your point here is that if you suddenly say I've got Holyrood now, you put that in a shop, how many people are going to go, wow, Holyrood, versus what you have to do to push that to make it sell? Do you pick up the bill for that? Does the retailer pick up the bill for that? Do Holyrood or the brand that you're bringing in do that? Or is it a shared cost for everybody?
Yeah, so I try to do it in a shared fashion, where when we go out around the country, we'll allocate a certain amount to the brands for A&P that we ask them to chip in and contribute. But largely, like if I'm going out to New York, or if I'm going out to California, or even if I'm going to the other side of Florida for the week, my cost to be out there is high. I'm not allocating that. We're just allocating actual costs. Like if there's a booth, we'll put part of the booth back to the brands. If we're pouring bottles, before we pour the bottles, we'll ask the brands to contribute some of that to make the liquid available.
Yeah, so you'll say, look, Living Souls, for example, we're going to be at a festival somewhere in the States, like New York.
We'll have 5 bottles to pour.
Give us some pouring stock that we don't have to pay for, but it gives us a chance to do the liquid to lips situation. Yeah. But,
which is critical.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially for new brands that people aren't familiar with.
Getting liquid in glasses and getting people trying it and talking about it. Yeah.
Okay, so you'll split that and activate, because this is the other thing, brand activations and things like that. Do you do all those kind of stuff? Will that be part of your wheelhouse, where you'll say new brand or even just current brands that we've got, but we're going to do activation events where it might be a case of, there's loads of cool activations that we've heard about since doing the podcast, but things like cocktail master classes, tastings. I know you do a lot of online tastings and things like that as well. But is that something that you'll be doing as well?
Yeah, we do activations. One of the I think great things that we do for our brands is we've built up a good Rolodex of people that are American influencers. And can help to spread the word that they do podcasts like you. So if you ever come to the US and you want to meet up with some,
well, that's where I'm going, Howard. I'm actually, if you ever need somebody to come over and do a bit of punting for your products, then let us know. You know, especially around the World Cup time, that would be it'd be quite nice to get out for that.
Well, Scotland might be playing a game in Florida.
Yeah, there we go. We can wiggle our way out.
There's some good stuff in Miami. We just opened Massachusetts as a market.
So. Really, you need us. You need us there. Okay, so you tap into influencers. You tap into
media
and clubs as well, like Tampa Bay.
For sure. Yeah, the clubs are critical. For us. So we built that in a really short period of time. If you think about it, since 2024. And we get our brands in touch. We make sure that they get some liquid. We work with them to do that, and I think that's a real value add as a service, and it's critical to what we do. We run a online account, Scotch Drinkers Only, to help promote our brands to the U.S. And we also have with Scotch Drinkers Only. We work with one of our retailers in New York that does fulfillment of the brand, so people can think of Scotch Drinkers Only. They can go to scotchdrinkersonly.com and they can easily get all the brands that we import. Yeah,
and that I suppose what you're doing there is you're tapping into, but also creating and building your own community on that front. Where, because look, I was at the In Whisky conference last week, and Stephanie McLeod, the blending director for John Deers and Sons. She's been working in whiskey for a long time, and the chat was about the challenges that we have, and the American market was actually spoken about quite a little bit, and we'll maybe talk about the tariffs there as what they've been on that and what that's done to the industry. But one of the things she was asked was, one of the things she said was, the whiskey industry and people who are working in the industry fish where the fish are. That's what we've got to start doing, and I suppose what you've had to start doing is find the fish that like to eat, nibble on. Unique, bespoke, because you can't put a marketing budget out and start putting billboards up like Glenfiddich would do, or like the other guys, or even marketing might be a challenge anyway. But
they've definitely slowed down in the past year, I would say.
Really,
the big boys,
But you can't do that because you can't do that for Holyrood, or you can't do that because it probably doesn't get the impact it does. However, sourcing a whiskey club that might have 50 members, of those 50 members, 85% of them are going to be absolutely engaged on the products that you're selling, and of that 85%, maybe 15% of them will be the guys that go, I'm going to purchase a bottle of that. And if you can tap in in a country the size of America, that's that.
But it's interesting because I think when we talk, it's a more mature market than maybe other markets we talk about. We talk a lot about India on the podcast. We talk about there's so many people just turning drinking age. These are people that might decide to drink whiskey. In America, it's like, well, there's a lot of people that might be drinking whiskey, but we can convert them to single cask strength, interesting distilleries. It's almost like you're that stage ahead of other markets.
And you're also tapping into a demographic of people who have the income or the disposable income that could spend. Like you say, if you come to Scotland and you're getting a bottle for 50 quid and it's sitting on the shelf in the States at 150 quid, $150. Is that a different demographic of like the whiskey drinker over in the States? Do you get pubs like Diggers where you can get some absolutely incredible deals on and drams poured for 35 mils for the prices that you're getting, or is it the whiskey drinker that you see in the States is somebody who's a little bit more affluent with a bit more money to spend?
I don't think I'm not just saying this, I don't think bars like this exist in the US where I love coming to Scotland. I love coming to places like this. I love coming to places like the Pot Still when I go to Glasgow, where you have access to just so many amazing drams at reasonable prices. In the U.S., it's difficult to. I think that. So in the U.S., bourbon is the home team. And so there are places like this for bourbon where you can go, but there's not too many places that you can go in the U.S. and have this variety of Scotch. No.
And it's when you see...
We're spoiled, Graeme.
We absolutely are. But it's when who's the lad? Who's the guy from the Tampa Bay Whiskey Club, and he's got. His collection that he's got. He showed me pictures of it. and you really take it for granted. Sometimes you can fall into a trap where you speak to someone from abroad, and oh, you like a whiskey, do you? And you naively just think you probably only see the whiskies that, the stuff that we see all the time, but you've never seen anything like this. So you could fall into that trap where you're just a bit like, all right, very good. I like what Ross, being amazed at Scott Moore's back bar that he has in his house. And then you see this guy and he pulls out his phone and he shows me his whiskey. And it's like a shop. He has a shop.
I think he had more Springbank than the Springbank gift shop. If you're looking at the same places that I like.
And the great thing about that was he said on the taste, I did a tasting for them in here when the guys came. And one of the drams that we put on the last dram was the Woody's Highland Park 7 that he did exclusively for Diggers. Yeah. And he looked at that and he said, look at all the Highland Parks I've got, and he had all of them, 30-year-old, 25s, 21s, whatever you can get at the age statement. He's had a lot of that. And I said, well, that's great, but have you ever tried 7-year-old single cask Highland Park? And he went, no, and he wasn't really sure about it. He tried it, and he was like, I need to buy at least 3 bottles of that. And he couldn't because it was all sold out. But that opportunity is, that's something that people don't get a chance to do, whereas we do in this.
And the other thing, we were talking before Graeme managed to get out of his scratcher this morning, Howard, we were talking about how in America there's like a kind of group of people that just go for the highest ABV possible. They hunt for these bottles. And
really?
Like, yeah, there's a market there where there are guys. What was the expression you used?
Hazmat. So whiskey
hazmat
that's
whiskey.
over 70% alcohol, they seek out.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of proof hounds
Proof
in the US. Yeah.
So what's the highest percentage ABV whiskey you've imported, Howard? Can you remember? Or
Yeah, I imported a new make spirit that was pretty
Because
hot.
how does that work in America? Because obviously once it's left Scotland as new make spirit, it will never be whiskey.
No. So it was kind of funny.
It will never be Scotch whiskey.
I had to write the TTB, and we had to get a formula approval for new make spirit. Because
no one had ever imported it before, as like for retail, or
I'm sure someone had imported it, but but so if your whiskey is Scotch whiskey, it gets a pass from the TTB. You don't have to write a formula.
Yeah.
They probably are not going to do any kind of analysis, like
because
a
it's a
laboratory
known
analysis.
product.
Yeah, they
and
trust
it's just
it.
Rubber
Yeah. They know that if SWA and the UK government has said that this is Scotch whiskey, that it's
okay. Yeah.
It's good. It's good stuff. But anything else, like the Canadian whiskey and I think Irish whiskey, there's like other, but new make spirit or gin or a number of other things, you need to have what's called a formula. So I had to write up all the steps that go into making Scotch up until it going into the oak barrel, and they approved it and we imported it, and I think that was at 63.5% alcohol. I don't recall.
So that wasn't even aged in a barrel, a cask or anything. It was literally just straight from the stills. In a container, in a tanker.
Yeah.
So you are. It's officially new make because. I mean,
are you selling this in bottles to the public? And it went down quite well.
The proof hounds would have loved it.
I was going to say there's proof hounds, but there's also a culture of moonshine in America as well. With, the kind of clear spirit.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if it would scale, but shops that got it sold it out in 24 hours just because people had not seen it before.
Yeah. Just because it was just something different, just something new.
Proof in the pudding.
We kept the price sharp. It was so it's a funny story with that. Like I was getting charged warehouse rent on this jug of new make spirit, and the tariffs were about to be implemented. So I called up my friends at Whiskey Broker and I said let's put it in the bottle and get it into the U.S. before the tariffs are implemented. And we airlifted out a whole bunch of liquid on April 1st last year. The tariffs went into effect April 2nd.
Happy birthday, Graeme.
Yeah.
And so that was a one-time
really?
great thing that we did. Yeah. That was.
And you can move like that because you don't have really too much of a problem with it. Now that like whiskey, you mentioned Whiskey Broker. I should say, it's funny. Whiskey Broker. I've been speaking a lot about them this week as well. And is it Martin? His name is
Martin and Jane Armstrong.
Down, and now they're down
in Creetown.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were there this week, Howard.
Yeah, it was.
And these guys, the B word, the broker word, is in their name.
Yeah.
But actually, they buy and sell casks to trade. They are not involved in any investment. In fact, Martin's been very actively against it and spoken very openly about it and talked to me about it a bit as well in length. But they are one of the people that they bottle stuff, but they also do a lot of storage, because that's the question I want to have. We've got some duty paid samples in front of us.
Yeah.
But what I wonder, how do you go about sourcing the whiskey then? What's the process for you? Like, what's it been like for the last couple of weeks for you being in and around and speaking to people?
Yeah. So I should preface with, my suppliers will always be better at independent bottling than I would ever be, because they either own the warehouse or they're close to the warehouse. And so my process is I meet with them, I see what they have available. I try to give them some feedback, what I see domestically in my market, what sales have been moving quicker for me, what types of bottles people are looking for, price ranges that the U.S. public seems to, from my sales data that I see move. And I try to have collaborative conversations with all the suppliers so that they can either set up their outturns to accommodate what'll work for us, or if they're sourcing whiskey, they can try to source things that work. I do some private casks, either for clubs or for stores or just curiosities, like fun experiments I like to do just for myself. And so my process for that is, when we're looking at where the whiskey, I run it through the same model. And I say, where is this going to be, and is it going to be economically viable on the shelf?
Wow. And that probably makes it a lot easier, because going to an independent bottler and saying, listen guys, what we know is that something very heavily peated, something at 60% and something that's dark will sell very, very well. And they can go and go, right, here's the casks that we have in that category. Whereas you don't have the power to go, because you don't have the selling power at the moment to go to a big brand like Glenmorangie and saying, my whiskey drinkers want this, because they'll just go, well, pick what we've got and that's what you get. Whereas being able to have that flexibility where now we've got samples in front of us, because it is fast approaching 11 a.m, so we should probably have a dram. I guess
it's acceptable.
It's Saturday.
It's acceptable.
So what have we got? What are these? What you've brought in with you?
So this first one here is a Blair Athol.
Yes. So it's a Blair Athol. It's a private cask I bought from Martin at Whiskey Broker. I bought it in a hogshead.
So this is one of your own casks.
Yeah, it's a private cask that I have. I wanted to share it with you guys.
Fantastic.
I sourced some really strange casks that I had shipped over from America. So this was a bourbon barrel that held rum and tequila, and now it has Blair Athol in it.
Wow. Okay.
So
wow.
Sanjivar, cheers.
Cheers. And so none of the IBs that I work with probably would want to touch this, but I thought it looked cool.
So you just thought, so this is something. This is your own project.
But this is interesting, where you're mentioning that you're sourcing casks in America and then bringing them to Scotland. You're almost involved in a kind of.
That is interesting.
You're almost involved in the other end of the industry, where it's we'll bring casks to Scotland that can be used to mature Scotch. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's something that I think is fun. I think for the U.S. consumer, I try to source from, so it's not just a ex-bourbon barrel, but I try to pick what I think are fun distilleries that so people that are geeks can get into, well, what mash bill held this, or was this rye, or things like that.
That is the market you're hitting. Like I say, if you could lift up the Independent Spirits Festival and stick it into the States, the people that are going to be in there later on this afternoon are the people that you want, because they're the people that will sit there and go. Now, like we've had when Scott Snedden brought oat whiskey to our birthday party. It's probably the best reaction to a whiskey that not many people particularly enjoyed, but actually loved at the same time, because what it was it was oaty, it was oat whiskey. People were a bit like, not a dram that I would probably go to regularly. It's probably where it's sitting. However, the opportunity to try 2 drams of oat whiskey have been matured separately was just an incredible thing. And that would be the same with this. There'll be people who look at that and go, hang on a minute.
I really want to try some water.
Tequila. Tequila. So that's what? So this is had tequila and rum. So
and it was in a bourbon barrel.
So a bourbon barrel that's then had aged tequila in it, and then aged rum in it, and now has Blair Athol. What age? What's
it's
it?
10-year.
10-year-old.
10 years Blair Athol. So,
and Blair Athol traditionally, it would be sherry casks and that very kind of, that deep colour you see with Blair Athol. If I'm thinking of Flora and Fauna, So this is something completely different as well. From,
Absolutely.
You know, it's not what you would normally see spirit from that distillery in.
Fantastic. I mean, I have to say, we're going to have to come clean, Howard, and let the listeners in on a little secret, but we were with each other yesterday for a long day of drinking drams. So I did try this last night, and I'm glad that I still probably have the taste of it at the back of my mouth before I tried it this morning again.
A bit of water and that's lovely.
But it's nice to revisit this.
That is absolutely lovely.
Because we did try there was a lot of drams consumed yesterday.
There were a lot of drams.
Yeah, and it was great. But the conversations that you're having then, are you speaking? Obviously, you're re-engaging with people you're already working with to maintain that relationship. But are you also looking at building new relationships and speaking to new people and seeing what's about?
Yeah. So at the last Independent Spirits Festival, shout out to Scotch on the Bayou. She's a great influencer, runs a YouTube show in the U.S. She grabbed me by the arm and physically dragged me to the Living Souls booth.
Really?
And told me I had to try this stuff.
Yeah.
And there was like swarms of people, and so I probably would not have tried to fight the swarm into there, but that was how I discovered them. And for me to add anyone to the portfolio of what I import, they really have to be additive.
Yeah.
They have to have something different. We don't want to just import the same stuff with different labels. And so I thought what they were doing, especially with the 99 in 1, but also with some of the other products they have.
For a company that's only been kind of doing what they're doing for 18 months.
Yeah.
Just making waves.
The Living Souls, even their bottling, even the bottles that they have.
They're beautiful.
Do you know their bottles, right?
Yeah. Oh.
Their bottles.
They are nice bottles. They're almost like wine bottles.
Well, they're cognac. They're the cognac version of the tall round.
Ah, so that's like, because I'm not really a cognac drinker, but if you were to buy
it may be cognac or brandy.
A standard cognac or a brandy, that's their standard bottle.
Basically, if you looked at that and had a brandy label and you were a brandy drinker, you'd look at that as the same way you'd say, well, that's just a tall round. That's a very standardised bottle. But basically what is very interesting is it means that when they go and buy the bottles, they're buying them just as cheap as you can pick up a tall round. But they're also, that's...
I think there's some cognac or brandy company using a tall round.
Oh,
everyone's going, oh, these fancy bottles.
Yeah, fascinating though. As a brand to go in there and the access to liquid that they've got and the stock and as you've said already, just the releases that they've put out.
The 40 year is incredible. That's been very popular in the U.S. and they've done something really interesting where they've done different batches. So each of the batches has variation for people to go explore. And so we got contacted by a number of people, and I try to talk to everyone that is interested and hear them out. I run them through the pricing model and talk how it works in the U.S. But in order for us to be able to bring another brand, because it's just me and my wife.
Yeah.
My favorite wife.
Your favorite wife?
Yeah.
My favorite wife.
My favorite wife.
Well, probably. Very good. There you go.
Yeah. So I only have so many hours in the day.
Just like to state that my current wife is my favorite wife.
Oh, good for you.
So
far.
They have to grow the pie, so we don't want to just reallocate pieces of the pie. We want to bring brands in that have something really special, have something unique, something that gets people exciting, is going to do new entries into the market. So when we brought Annandale in, there was new states that were emailing us that weren't currently on where we were working with that said, we want Annandale. And so that's what we're looking for.
That's really cool. And that's the other problem is you'd love to say yes to absolutely everybody, but from a time point of view, but also the danger is, and this is where it's, the danger you have is you buy because you have to pay for it, don't you? At the end of the day, this is the bit that everyone forgets is you're the guy that has to pay for the whiskey the first time.
Yeah.
So you buy 100 bottles of us. Yeah. You've had to pay that, right? You've got that liability. Then through your trusted networks, you're going to your distributors. They buy it off you, right? Which you've added a margin to, and that's fine. You can go, whew, that's me, fine. I got my money back, and I've made a little bit on top of it. But the problem is, if you're in a situation where the whiskey that the distributors bought off you, that's been convinced to put it into a retailer or a bar, right, and it doesn't move, they'll never come. The next time you phone them up and say, "Oh, I've got this stuff," they'll go, "No, thanks, Howard, because the last stuff you gave us, it didn't shift." Yeah. So then your model's knackered on that front.
Oh, but from a positive point of view, you sell 100 bottles and it goes like hotcakes. Then you've got the distributor. When can we get more? When can we get more?
But that's the precarious, because it's easy to forget that the consumer's getting hit with a lot of the price because you've got everyone's getting their margin and their cut, and there's a cost involved. But at the end of the day, you're the first person that has to take the hit.
Yeah. So A number of the brands work with us on terms.
Yeah.
So that we might have 30 or 60 days from when we buy the product. But when you think about how long it takes to get the product from Scotland to the US to a distributor, we don't usually typically complete our cycle before the terms are over. So one of the things that we're working with, and it's a bit of an uphill fight, is the distributors in the US are all asking for terms as well. So the distributors might want between 30 and 60 days.
Yeah, so everyone wants that buffer so that they can suddenly go, well, I can have that sold by the time that invoice needs to be paid, and that helps. But at the same time, if everyone does that, then there's 30 days here, 30 days there. Suddenly you're going back and say, well, it's 90 days. Someone's going to have to still pay it.
Yeah, so it's usually me.
Yeah, and that's the tricky bit. But I mean, what an exciting thing to be able to start and to be able to see it growing.
Yeah.
The pub is now starting to open, so we do get to our stage.
We
What's the
mention,
second dram?
We should mention the second dram, and just on this first dram, really, with a bit of water, really, really nice. I get that kind of sugar from the rum. I get a bit of spiciness, there is a bit of a kind of tequila taste to it. I do think I get that.
What I want Angus to do.
Lovely, but yeah.
Don't tell Angus this.
Right.
I want Angus to read the label.
Okay.
Pour yourself a wee drop.
Okie doke.
Tell us what you think it is, because the colour of that, everything about it. So explain it for the listeners who are listening, what you have in front of you.
So I have, it's a liquid.
Yep.
Year 2010, so presumably 16 years old.
Right. Now talk about the colour.
The colour, it's a kind of deep, tea-stained colour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
50 what per ABV?
53.6.
Right. Pour a dram.
So looks to me, I mean, if I was to be, I would say 16-year-old cherry cask.
Right. Okay. Good.
Oloroso, something like that.
Yeah. You would be. Yeah, that's fair.
That would be. Let me just pop this in my glass.
I will say Martin Armstrong personally pulled that from the.
Yeah, I should add. You can tell that these have not been filtered. These there's lovely wee bits of char in there.
Right, so I really enjoyed this dram last night. Okay. Right, have a wee smell and a taste, Angus. Tell us what you think. Because, what do you reckon?
Smells very nice. Let me taste it. Proof of the pudding's in the eating, right?
Yeah.
That is delicious. That is absolutely delicious. And it doesn't taste 53% either. It's one of these drams that, honestly, tastes about 43%.
Right.
It's very sweet. Mm-hmm. Very sweet, very fudgy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Right.
Yeah, that's delicious.
Tell us what that is.
Tell us a bit more. What cask have we got here?
Yeah, so this is Linkwood. I bought it from Whiskey Broker, and so they had a good amount of history on it that Martin was able to share with me. It was an international buyer that had it. It was in 3 bourbon barrels. One was the longer maturation. He told me the next one they only put in for 30 days, kind of like a tea bag. And then it went into a third one where I've had it for the past several years, and we've been drawing samples.
So this has been re-racked 3 times then?
Yes.
But in 3 different bourbon barrels.
So there's no sherry.
There's no sherry whatsoever. But I mean, what a colour it's got on it.
The colour on that, if you get a chance, I'm going to put
for a 16-year-old that's only been in bourbon.
And Linkwood as well.
And the bourbon casks, were they all refills? Was there virgin oak? Was there first fill? Do you know? Or do you not?
I don't have that detail.
Don't have that detail. But
3, yeah. So that's been re-racked 3 times into different, and like you say, one really long, one just tea bag, and then the next one is where it's sitting right now. And what a taste! That's absolutely delightful.
That's an incredible.
And that's going to. So that's your own cask as well.
That's my cask. Yeah.
Oh, you're a lucky man.
Thank you very much for giving us a bottle, because please tell us when you're going to be putting that into glass for retail, because
we might have to go over to the States to pick up a bottle, Graeme.
I'd happily do that. But look, the pub is now open. People are going to start flooding in. We've been lucky enough to be here for a good hour and a half beforehand, enjoying our coffee, our drams and things, but we are getting to the stage of the conversation where we do ask our guests for their what 3 drams, Howard. So basically, I did brief you. I think I briefed you. I couldn't remember this morning when I was walking in last night after the drams. I had going, did I tell Howard or did I not about the what 3 drams? But anyway, any 3 whiskies that have a meaning, a story, or an association with you.
Yeah, so I could give 10 drams, but since the bar has to open up, we talked about the Glenfarclas. I thought, for me, that the Whiskey Exchange private bottling was a milestone for me in my life, having that.
Can you remember what age? Was there an age statement on that bottle, or was it just was it a Whiskey Exchange's own? So it was a Glenfarclas branded bottle by the Whiskey Exchange.
Well, no, it was the Christmas malt. So the employee told me it was Glenfarclas.
Ah, there you go. So it's kind of like the stocking filler that they do for Royal Mile
so
whiskies.
the Whiskey Exchange, and this was about 2014, you said.
2018, I want to say.
2018.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So-
We need to look for that. You'll maybe find that on an auction somewhere.
I did buy a second bottle at
Did you?
auction. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh, wow.
Open that up,
Look
look
at
at that. Brilliant.
Maybe when you come to Florida, we'll open that up.
Yeah. Not maybe, when we come to Florida.
And so I think that was a milestone for me. After the first time I came to Scotland, I called up my current and favorite wife, Melissa, and only wife, if her folks are listening. Yeah. And I told you have to come here. It's incredibly amazing here, and so we brought our families. So we came back I brought my folks here. She brought her folks, and we were on the Isle of Skye, and there was an evening that my father and I were drinking Coolila on Skye, and that was a very memorable dram for me. And so I always have a fondness now for Coolila, and I remember that night.
That's nice.
Can you remember what the bottle was of Coolila? Was it just a Coolila 12 or?
I think it may have been an 18.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was not an. I mean, it was in Scotland. The price was reasonable for what it was.
Yeah. But it's nice.
Coolila 18 is lovely.
I'm actually starting to. Ross will tell me I'm talking rubbish, but I am starting to really come. We tried a few Coolilas yesterday, and I'm starting to cut.
I really like Coolila. I really like you get. From my point of view, people want to hear me talking about peated whiskey. I think there's almost that like kind of coal-fired taste you get to Coolila. It almost tastes a bit sooty.
I get
but in a
sweet,
nice way.
if it's done, depending on the cask, but I get like sweet and sticky barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
Like just smoky barbecue sauce.
Coals.
Really nice.
Very nice.
Okay, dram number 3. Two good drams already.
I love the Ben Nevis distillery,
Okay.
and we don't get enough good Ben Nevis in the U.S.
It's a distillery that over here, I mean, well, maybe us and Ross, it splits opinion. Some people love it, some people hate it. I love it personally. I love Ben Nevis.
So any affiliate, just because it's something that you can get in the States, but you don't often get an awful lot of it.
So we were talking about some cask brokers, and so through Vicky Bruce, I was able to source at what I think is a reasonable price, a cask of Ben Nevis, and I love Marsala, and it was first fill Marsala, and so I was able to pull a dram out of that, and out of my cask that I was able to get, and so that would be my third.
Superb.
Yeah.
Marsala cask Ben
Nevis,
Nevis.
that would be
super.
Peated, yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Now I'm interested how just on this front, the journey that you've been on, and obviously it's mental that a year ago today we were sitting having breakfast, only just met you the night before, and we've repeated it a year ago. Last night we were drinking drams, and here we are this morning a bit bleary-eyed, having the same conversations. But for yourself, what was it like when you obviously take the hit? You've worked your way up into a massive position in a big company. You've made the decision to go yourself. You promised your wife you're only going to have three businesses that you're going to try and run at the same time. You're still in your first one, which is great. And along with that, continue, by the way. But when you make the hit, so that moment where you've gone, right, that's how much it's going to cost me, and this is how much I'm going to be liable for of investment.
Yeah.
When you got that first sale, when you've moved it to somebody else, has gone, I'll take the hit on that, I'll take the punt on you. You're new. So distributor's going to have to go, I've never heard of you before, mate, or I don't really know you that well, never heard of these guys, but I'll take the hit on you. What was that like? And then seeing it move, and then suddenly the realization going, this is working.
Yeah, I mean, any sale feels fantastic.
Yeah.
And so when you complete the sale, and when you have a good account that you can scale up, there's a thrill to be able to do that, and to be able to build something, and so that I don't, unless you've done it, you can't really explain the adrenaline.
What a moment. to be here as well. Absolutely fantastic. Howard, thank you so much for coming on. How can people find you? How can people keep in touch? And if there's anyone in the States that wants to keep in touch or find out, what's the best ways to get in?
So the best way for consumers to get in touch with us is to follow us at Scotch Drinkers Only.
Right.
That's on
Instagram.
That's on Instagram and some other platforms.
And you have a website as well.
ScotchDrinkersOnly.com as well. I recommend everyone sign up for the mailing list.
Yeah.
We try to give the mailing list customers a heads up when things are coming to a retailer, so that the bottles that they want can be shipped to the retailer and they can get access to the good stuff. So if you want, for instance, we had a Kildalton that came in at 19 years, fantastic. We had a limited amount of Bruichladdich, 20-year cask strength's been super popular, and things like that we're maybe getting less than 4 cases for the entire country.
Wow.
I'd get on that mailing list and try to get access.
And then brands, if there's anyone who listens to this that's going, right, I want my brand on a shelf in America, how do they get in touch with you? What do they do? Come through me and I'll get my cut.
Yeah, we'll give you a fee. Yeah. So Sax Dynamic Operations is the name of our importer company. It's a long name. We might want to shorten that, but so they can get in touch with me either through the website at saxdynamicoperations.com or through LinkedIn.
Super.
They can connect with me. Happy to have a conversation with any brands, but looking for things that are going to be additive and the economics work in the U.S. market.
Brilliant. Angus, what are you looking forward to most this afternoon when we get down to Leith to go to our to the festival?
I'm just looking forward to seeing who's there.
Are you going to look out anything? Are you going to?
I don't know.
Are you going to approach this from a different point of view?
I don't know if I have anything in particular I'm looking out for. I saw a post on Thompson Brothers put up a post of things to look out for at the festival, and I thought I'll maybe take a screenshot of that, and I forgot to do that. So I'm actually not really approaching this from any point of view, but I'm just looking forward to seeing people there, meeting people that we've had on the podcast, people that we know, people that we've maybe never met before. As much as these are a kind of whiskey event, for us they've almost become a big social event as well. So I'm looking forward to that side of things, and I'm sure it's one of those ones that when we get there, I'm sure other people will be recommending, go to that stall because you need to try their 15-year-old what have you, or go to that stall because you need to try their
I'm just going to look for the most expensive and the oldest. That's what
well, that's a good strategy.
No, actually, do you know what I'm going to do? This has got me on today. My focus is going to be on refill bourbon. That's all I'm looking for today.
Refill bourbon.
That's all I'm going to look for. I'm just going to go refill bourbon. I'm going to try and find that peated, unpeated. Don't mind it. Aged, don't care about it. I'm just going to. The wine stuff and the wine casks and things, the sherries. No, I'm going to try and steer clear of them unless I get a full recommendation. What I really want to dive my nose into today is refill bourbon. Howard, how are you attacking this today? Are you going to support brands that you're already working with, but are you also just looking for new things as well?
Yeah, I'm first and foremost, so I don't get in trouble with my social media manager. I'm going to have to take some good social media videos from our current suppliers. But last year I found Bartels and Living Souls, like I mentioned. So I'm going to see who's got some interesting things, who's got some energy, and we'll, maybe we'll find the next great brand there.
Absolutely. Well, in the meantime, it's time for breakfast. Yeah. Thank you very much for coming along, Howard.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for
appreciate it.
A big thanks to Kevin, Claire, and Diggers for allowing us to sit here whilst they've been getting the pub ready, because it's going to be a busy day. It's been absolutely fantastic. You've been listening to the Whisky Stories podcast. It's been great to hear from you. Please get in touch. Get in touch with Howard, message us if you're over in the States. Tell us that you know Howard, tell us where you're drinking, tell us whatever you can possibly do. Give us 5 stars, get involved in the Facebook group, get involved in our social media, get in on the Instagram, everything like that. Angus, we've done it again. All the very best. Cheers. Slanjava. Excellent.
Superb.
So that's the rehearsal done. Now what we do is we go downstairs and do the whole thing again. Brilliant.